I just finished watching the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man show, you know, that new show that was on Disney Plus that everybody doubted, including myself. And I can't lie, it's actually pretty good, okay? Now, hear me out. First of all, I'm going to delve into spoilers, so if you haven't seen the show, go watch it. It's honestly a pretty good watch, and I'm going to explain why in this video for you guys, but there will be spoilers ahead. So first off, I want to talk about the animation, which is something that everyone, including myself, was kind of hardcore judging at first by the looks of it, because it's something that we're not used to. It was different, and obviously when we see something different, we're going to judge it. But surprisingly, I got used to it pretty quick, relatively. It's not that great when characters are still, but it's not that bad. It's still not the best animation I've ever seen. I'll take the Spectacular Spider-Man animation or the 90s series any day over this, probably, for animation-wise. But it's still not awful. It has its moments for sure. Because especially in motion, it actually looks pretty good, I can't lie, and I kind of started to enjoy it. Specifically in that Scorpion fight scene in the second last episode is actually pretty good. I liked it a lot. Now, most importantly, in a Spider-Man show especially, okay, is I want to go over the characters in this because they were surprisingly very well done, which I wasn't expecting at all, especially since we kept hearing rumors of how the Spider-Man is going to be a streamer, which was a straight-up lie. I just want to say that now. It's a lie. So whoever said that, screw you. Yeah. So first off, I'm obviously going to delve into Peter and Spider-Man here, and Peter is actually done really well. I was surprised as to how much I liked this version of him. He's basically just like a bright, young kid that we see in a lot of Spider-Man type media, but it was actually done pretty well here. He just wants to help people, which is obviously a big thing for Peter Parker, but he kind of struggles to balance his responsibilities as well, which is great. That's literally Peter. That's the Peter I want to see. Just one thing to note, though, is that I just wish we saw more responsibilities from him. Now, don't get me wrong, we did see some with him helping, like, with his Oscorp internship, and he's still at school, his friendship with Nico, and his later friendship with Harry, and trying to balance everything. But I just wish we got to see some more stuff, kind of like his classic helping Aunt May, and possibly, like, actually having a real job as like, with an internship, so he has money to help support. It's just those kind of classic things, and I'm very partial to Spectacular Spider-Man, and, like, the Raimi trilogy that kind of does that kind of stuff, because it's just stuff that I really like, and maybe it's because I grew up on it, but I don't mind this at all. He still has responsibilities, which was good to see. Now, okay, listen, the most shocking character in this that really does it for me this show was Lonnie. As most of you probably know, also known as Tombstone, which is a pretty big name Spider-Man villain who kind of becomes like a big crime boss. I wasn't expecting to see him here. When I first saw him in like the first few episodes, I was like, why is he like a high school student with Peter? But I think it's really interesting because he has a great character arc, and basically just from coming from a football star to being the leader of the new gang by the end of the series, taking on the name of Tombstone. I don't know. I just think it was really cool to see, and it's going to be awesome seeing Peter and his friendship become a rivalry. And by awesome, I mean really sad, probably. But it's awesome because it was kind of great storytelling there, and I liked it a lot. It was also kind of cool seeing his origin in that second last episode there, with, I don't really know what the fuck that thing was that made him super strong and gave him powers. But it turns out he's also going to be... does something to his skin pigmentation, and he's going to be looking like that gray version that we love of Tombstone, because when I first saw him, I was like, I mean, I guess Tombstone could be black. I don't know. I don't judge. Now, I want to get onto the character of Harry. He wasn't awful. I understand that with a show coming out in 2025 depicting Spider-Man, you have to make some changes. So making him an influencer, I feel like kind of works for Harry's character in a way. It was a different take on him, which I'm once again not the biggest fan of, but I understand it and I can respect it in some ways. I'm kind of just not a fan of him knowing Spider-Man right away, but like, it's whatever. It's just like him being Peter's guy in the chair here, opposed to like Ned Leeds kind of was in the Homecoming trilogy. I don't know. It doesn't really work for me. I don't really like seeing Peter having people in his ear helping him with things. I feel like he should just, you know, be Spider-Man on his own because he's fucking Spider-Man. It does seem interesting, though, because it kind of seems like they might set up some kind of romantic type beat for Harry and Nico, which I'll get to in a second here. But So that might be interesting to see. But lastly, I really don't want to see Harry start a company. What was it called? Web at the end, Web Industries or something like that. I think that's really dumb just for like young bright minds. I don't know. Not the biggest fan of that plot point, but we'll see where it takes us in season 2. Okay, now Nico. Nico's pretty cool actually. I was kind of interested to see who she was as a character because I don't think we've seen her in other Spider-Man media. She's might be a character in the comics. I'm not entirely sure, but she seems pretty cool so far. I'm curious as to what her amulet is because it seems like something they're really trying to set up for next season. Once again, I'm assuming it's a character from the comics that. Oh, I don't know what that was. But she seems like a character from the comics that I might just not know. Initially, I thought that she was going to be kind of a replacement for Gwen Stacy, but as what was revealed on Twitter today, maybe not on Twitter, but I saw it on Twitter, is that they're introducing Gwen Stacy next season, which is really cool. And then I saw that they're introducing Spider-Gwen. Not cool. Anyways, sorry, for Nico, I am very glad that she finally realized in like the last 2 episodes that she kind of understood why Peter didn't tell her that he was Spider-Man, and I like that a lot, but I also don't like her knowing that he's Spider-Man in the first place, which I'll get into in a second. But finally, the last major character here, Norman Osborn, which is obviously a big thing for this show. They're finally introducing Norman Osborn into like an MCU type like project. So Norman is done really well, actually. I really like his character in this. The difference between him and Tony being like Peter's mentor is really interesting to see. And especially when he drops that like hard ass line, with great power comes great respect, and you really expect him to like be the one to tell Peter with great power comes great responsibility, which I would not have liked, by the way. So I'm glad that they did this because it's kind of a different like aspect towards him and kind of shows the differences between Norman's goals in a way. And you kind of see how like that line kind of really affects him in a way, almost like about to kill the Scorpion and try to gain respect because of the powers that he has. So it's really interesting to see kind of like the difference there. Now, one thing about introducing Norman and Oscorp, which I love Oscorp and all that stuff is great, and I'm glad they introduced it in the show, but I really hate how Oscorp is making his suit. Like, god damn, just let Peter make it like in the comics. It's not hard. Just let Peter make his suit. It's super easy. It's done all the time, but in this, like, MCU kind of related stuff, they just have other high-tech people make his suit, which I don't like. Overall, he is a good character, and I am intrigued to see what he is plotting for the next season, as we kind of see him we see hints towards the glider, which will be hinting towards Green Goblin, which I'm expecting to see at the end of next season. We see the symbiote kind of be introduced in the last episode there, which is really interesting to see. So maybe we're going to see Peter go into a symbiote arc, which would be kind of cool. Seems a little early, in my opinion, but whatever. And a big one is that he's trying to recreate the spider that bit Peter. Don't know how to feel about that. Now, I very briefly just want to go over the appearances that happen in the show. So, there's honestly some pretty great ones. So, first of all, we see frickin' Daredevil, and oh my lord, they play his Netflix theme, and it's beautiful. He's voiced by Charlie Cox, and it was honestly really good. I like the fight and interaction between him and Peter. It's really cool to see the two vigilantes go up against each other. Well, I know Spider-Man's not a vigilante, but he gets titled as one sometimes, so I'm calling him that. Shut up. He also looked really cool. I like the all-black suit for Daredevil. He just looked sick. He looked cool. What can I say? We also see Otto Octavius, which is really interesting here. It's really cool to see him be the supplier and like the kind of the creator of all this technology for the villains instead of the tinkerer, which I kind of like a lot more. How he was like thrown out by Oscorp. It kind of feels like it kind of relates to the games in a way. I feel it's kind of interesting to see. I like that a lot, and they just have a good setup for him. Throw him in jail, and you see him plotting to with his arms and stuff, so he's probably going to be a big bad for next season, which I'm super excited for, and he looks almost exactly like his comic counterpart in my opinion. He looks really great. This one was a tiny cameo, okay, but we see Iron Man, and his classic costume looks so sick, and it's really interesting to see like him too, because this is in the same era as Civil War, kind of, because we see the Sokovia Accords, and he basically has to stop Otto because it goes against the Accords. But you see him very briefly. He looks cool. Maybe we're going to see more of him in the second season. Who knows? It's interesting, though. So we also have Doctor Strange that we see in the first episode and the last episode, and they do correlate with each other because if you've seen the whole series, you see there's some time travel aspects, and if you know me, I love time travel. Time travel stuff is so awesome in my opinion, and this time travel stuff was done really great, which I'll get more into when I talk about the story. But basically, I thought he was badass. I love the time travel stuff once again. I love just, I don't know, his conversation with Peter. I love that at the end. It was really great, and it kind of shows how Peter's grown throughout the little bit that we've seen of him, and I'm just excited. I'm excited to see what happens, and I hope we see more of him because he looked great. I love just a little stash. He looked good. Okay, now mainly what I want to talk about here is the story, because we all know that the story at the end of the day is what can make or break a Spider-Man show such as this. We've seen it ruin some Spider-Man shows such as Marvel's Spider-Man. What's the other one? Oh, Ultimate Spider-Man. Okay, listen, some people are partial to Ultimate Spider-Man. I'm not. I don't like Ultimate Spider-Man. It's not great. It has some banger episodes. It's not good overall. It's kind of garbage. But the story is, like, very different from other, like, iterations that we've seen. Because at the end of the day, it's kind of a what-if story to the MCU Spider-Man. And in my opinion, it does it a lot better than the MCU Spider-Man. Because I'm not a big fan of that, if you've seen my Spider-Man 4 video. But before I dive into the things that I actually really do enjoy about this, I want to talk about the things that I'm not the biggest fan of here. Namely, the first one being killing Uncle Ben before he became Spider-Man is a really, really interesting choice, if you ask me. It's also just, it's so odd because it's a major point in almost every Spider-Man story. And I don't know, it just feels really weird to do this and cut it out of his origin, because it's such a big part of him, especially dropping that with great power comes great responsibility line. I don't know how to feel about it. It's interesting to see, to say the least, but I like Uncle Ben. I'm not saying we needed to see him, but just to know that he was there for Peter's origin would have been nice. I also really hate that Spider-Man needs a team in his ear, like Norman and Harry in his ear. I don't like that, and I actually hate that it's done here, because it just kind of ruins a lot of the Spider-Man moments for me. In fact, I think the best part about this show is the moments where they're not in his ear during his first fight with Scorpion, where he almost gets killed. I don't know. It's just interesting to see. I like to see Spider-Man kind of on his own. I do wish we got to see some more traditional characters, kind of like Gwen, but she's in the next season, and hopefully she's not fucked up with Spider-Gwen. God, that will piss me off. That's literally my only note on that. Now, like I said, I like the show overall, but I feel like the pacing is a little off with some story plot lines, mainly Lonnie's, because he seems so against, like, the gang and his brother being in the gang, and he swaps places with his brother so his brother's safe. But he's still so against being a part of the gang because he doesn't like that stuff. But it seems like just one episode and he was like all in. He's like, these are my brothers. So that was kind of weird to me. I wasn't the biggest fan of that. But I know where the story is going to end up going with him being Tombstone. So I'll forgive it. But it's just a little nitpick. Now, also, don't get me wrong, Scorpion has done pretty well here. I like how he's like a member of a gang, or he's the leader of a gang, and it's kind of like a gang wars between them. It's kind of interesting to see, kind of like a little bit of like a side story. But I just feel like he's a little undercooked here. We don't really see much of him. We don't really get to see much of his like narrative, other than him just being mad because of like the other gang stepping on their turf. I don't know. Just gang war stuff, I guess, but it was interesting to see. I don't think he's done awfully, but I feel like we could have delved a bit more into his story. Okay, now lastly, this is like my biggest gripe with this entire show. Why the fuck does everyone know who Spider-Man is, man? Everybody, I'm telling you. When Norman first found out, like, immediately, I was like, man, Peter's so stupid. Oh my god, he's a moron. And then Harry finds out, like, the next episode, and he just, like, basically just meets Harry and becomes friends with him. I'm like, oh my god, this is so stupid. And then when Nico finds out, I just wanted to, like, oh my lord. Like, okay, not much of a secret identity at this point. I don't like how they reveal his identity to, like, everyone in the first season. Save some for, the second season. I get that some of Peter's friends know that he is Spider-Man, okay? I get that's a thing, obviously. But just, like, don't do it right away. I don't know. It's my biggest nitpick with the show. I don't like it. Okay, so now I do want to get into the stuff that actually makes the show pretty damn great, and probably a top 3 animated Spider-Man show for me, okay? I'm saying it here. Probably top 3 behind 90s and Spectacular, okay? Now listen, the Spider-Man swinging in this was actually really good, and it was like just, it looked great, and I'm a sucker for Spider-Man swinging scenes, probably because we've been so deprived of them in the MCU trilogy of them. So I'm really excited to see these here, and I also just want to say I like how intelligent Peter is, and does like some actual science shit with his internship. It's interesting to see him create a generator that ends up being used kind of, again, like not for what it was initially intended for because of Osborn, which also kind of shows how messed up like Norman is, which I like. But also like Peter's suit in this is very different from his starter suit here to what it was in the MCU. I think it's weird to be like that whole like pressure tank thing on his back, okay? It looks goofy, but I do like how it shows how smart he is and like kind of like thinking outside the box. So I give it a pass. Now, although I might not like the characters that are in the show as much as like traditional characters like Gwen and like all that, I do think that Peter does have good relationships here with all these people like Lonnie, Pearl, Nico, even Harry, even though they just kind of developed a friendship. I do think that they're done pretty well in this show, and I can't wait to see their stories in the next season, which I can't believe I'm saying considering I was such a hater of this at the beginning. Now, some people might not like this, but I kind of do. This whole first season just feels like a big setup for like what's to come next, and I think it was done really well because like you can see at the end of the first episode everything that was kind of teased for the next season, because this is confirmed to have at least 2 more seasons. So I'm interested to see where they go with that. But it did feel like one big setup, which I kind of like, and we're just going to see where the story goes here. Now, something that's really cool to see in a show like this that is basically a what-if storyline from the MCU version is the tie-ins and references we get to the MCU timeline. It's honestly really cool to see like the different points, and like, you know that meme of like Leonardo like, yeah, that one. I really like how like we can see the times the Accords are being placed in this, and we see the Civil War battle, which he's in the MCU, but in this he's watching from Oscorp. We even get some references to like the Raimi trilogy with Doc Ock and I think Norman saying that I couldn't see him wanting to like create the sun or something like that, which is just really interesting to see, and it kind of made the show even more fun for me trying to find these little like kind of things to pick out, especially when they completely recreated the live action scene of like Tony finding out Peter is Spider-Man to Norman, like kind of in the apartment. You know the scene I'm talking about. Okay, so the next thing that really locked me into this show was, I think it was in the 6th or 7th episode, his fight with the Scorpion. Dude, that fight was actually so good. It was brutal, which was awesome to see, and I love how it just kills Peter's confidence, as it should, which leads to Osborn giving him that alternative version of the Great Power speech. And I just think that fight is so awesome because it's actually brutal. You see Scorpion kill people, man. Like, that is crazy for a Disney Plus show, especially like a kid-oriented Spider-Man show. I thought that was sick, and how he almost kills Spider-Man. Good stuff, Disney. Good stuff. We also see Peter kind of struggle with his friends and loved ones to be Spider-Man, which is stuff that I really enjoy seeing when it comes to this character. Just like the simple stuff with him kind of like ignoring Nico when it comes to going to the movies and stuff too, or just working the internship and being late. And just like this stuff kind of with scaring Aunt May as well. Like, it's just interesting to see kind of how different iterations of this character do this, and I think it was done pretty well in this. Lonnie's story as well is very intriguing in this. Like I've mentioned, at first, once again, I thought it was weird, but we get to see him go from Spider-Man's friend to eventually becoming his enemy, and I can't wait for that. I think that'll be a great plot line. I think we'll get a bit of it in the next season, and then hopefully full on out in season 3. I think it'll be great to see. It'll suck for Peter, obviously, but I think if they do it right, it can be done really well. So listen, we have seen Spider-Man in high school, like this version of Spider-Man, so many times, like time and time again. And yeah, it definitely does get boring, do not get me wrong here. But I always find ways to enjoy seeing his struggles in school with like romantic possibilities such as Pearl, which is a new character from what I believe. Just seeing that, him struggle with doing his schoolwork and all that, trying to find a job and everything. I do enjoy seeing that as well, so I'll give it a pass here as something as to what I like about it. But I do think eventually we need to start moving on to seeing more Peter college life and like maybe full adult Peter in like media, because I think that stuff is equally as cool, and we've just seen so much young Peter stuff that I think we should take a step back just a bit. But I like how it's done here. It's still done well. Peter also gets a final swing scene in the last episode, and I love it. It's so good. It looks so good. Oh my god, I love it. And that interaction with Doctor Strange at the end is also really well done. He has his classic suit. It's great. It's great. And you know, I saw a post on this, I believe on Twitter, saying that, you know, Spider-Man fans have it bad when we get excited him seeing him in his just classic suit. And you know what, you're right. It's been so long in media, it feels like, since we've seen it. So it, especially when it comes to Disney. So, and it looks great here. It looks really good. Okay, so now major spoilers here, but I don't know whether I like or hate this. I think I like it because it's different. But we see Richard Parker, Peter's dad, in jail at the end. He's in jail for whatever reason. I don't know what, maybe some sciencey stuff, but we see Aunt May visit him, and it's really interesting. I guess who he's voiced by? He's voiced by friggin' Josh Keaton, the Spectacular Spider-Man, my favorite Spider-Man. So it's very cool to see. I kind of like it. I can't lie. I kind of like it. I'm interested to see where they go with it. It's different. It's different. Now, overall, this is a great start to the series. Not too many bad things here. I had many doubts before watching this, but I'm glad that I was actually proven wrong with a lot of the community, it seems, because I see lots of people loving this show. So that makes me very happy, actually. Now, is this the best Spider-Man show? No. And I don't think it can even come close to the Spectacular Spider-Man. But honestly, this has a very solid start and has tons of potential to be something unique, and it's a good introduction to new fans of the character. Obviously, there are better stories for Spider-Man out there, but I'm excited for the future of the show, even if it can't be better than the Spectacular Spider-Man, which nothing can, because that's peak. But yes, so far I would say that the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is a good show, and I'm honestly very excited to see where it goes from here. So yeah, that wraps up this video, guys. If you like, make sure to comment and subscribe down below. Hopefully stay tuned for some more content. Love you guys.